Whether it's saving me time, saving me money, or saving me a headache, here are 10 tools that I wish I bought sooner. Nuts and bolts with Tone here, guys. I have been a mechanic for almost 20 years, and over the years, I've come across some tools that, boy, I wish I had got sooner. I'm going to share that with you. Let's get going.
So the first tool I bought under the wrong premise. I actually bought this airlift cooling system, leak check, and airlift purge toolkit, basically a coolant refiller, because I thought that it would suck the coolant out and put new coolant in. And I worked with the guy, and he's like, "Oh man, you got to get this tool." And so I bought it. I hooked it up to a car that was full of coolant. Went over and said, "Hey Kevin, man, this thing's not sucking the coolant out." He's like, "Oh, it doesn't do that. It's for refilling it." So the first time it really came into a benefit was I had a motorhome where I was inside the cab working on a thermostat housing, and one of the bolts were stripped out, and I thought I repaired it properly. When I got done, I hooked up the airlift, and as soon as I turned it off, as soon as I locked it, all the vacuum would drop down. And so I knew I had a leak, and it was at that thermostat housing, and I found it before I put 4 gallons of coolant in this thing and made a giant mess. So what this does is you have this right here, and you hook this valve up, and you have one hose that you hook up to suck the system down. So it will suck this from 0 all the way to, I think mine goes to like 27 or 28 right now. I've had mine for a lot of years, 12, 15 years, something like that, probably 15 years. And so mine goes to like around 27, 28 inches. And what it does is as soon as it's done sucking it down, you close this valve and you watch your vacuum reading. And if your vacuum reading doesn't drop, then most likely you don't have a leak. Then you change it to the other hose, open the lever, and it refills it. So basically it sucks the thermostat open and it fills the cooling system backwards. So you don't have air bubbles behind your thermostat and then end up with an overheating issue, no heat, stuff like that. Over the years, I think maybe 12 to 15 times in 15 years, I may have had an air pocket. Probably not even that, probably closer to 10. I rarely ever have to put a funnel on a car that I use an airlift on. And now these are all the rage. Everybody has them. A lot of them have the hoses all connected to this. I don't like that kind. I like this because it fits in this nice box. It's simple and I like it. I've used it for a long time. So that is for refilling the cooling system. Now the next tool, now this is a tool that I bought recently because I wanted to get this tool. So this is to use shop air to pressurize a cooling system. So what this does is you hook up right behind here, you have a fitting, and you hook up your air nozzle to it, your air hose in the shop, and you put this on an adapter. And you turn this knob here, and then it puts it at whatever pressure you want to put it at. I worked at a shop before where we couldn't condemn a head gasket unless we removed all the spark plugs and we saw coolant actual dripping down the cylinder. And so the shop policy was that we had to put this on overnight and leave it. That was just the way they did it. I didn't like it, but it's nice to have this because you don't have to keep pumping up your tester. Well, to have this, you have this style of adapter. This style of adapter doesn't work with Snap-on and Matco unless you bought their brand. And so I bought this. And also the other reason I bought this kit was because I work on a lot of Sprinters and a lot of newer Toyotas have a funny looking little radiator cap or a degas bottle cap. And those adapters are in here. And so not only do I have the adapters for all the things I don't have, but I also have the nozzle here, the tip, where I can put that pressure tester on there. And this also comes with a pump up pressure tester. And it also comes with its own refiller. I know guys that use this. I just have always used my airlift because that's just what I've used. And if my airlift ever broke, I probably would try this. So I know Astro Pneumatic makes one of these. It's like twice the money, but it looks the same. So it's kind of hard to justify spending that much money on something that's in the exact same package. It's all the same color. So vacuum refiller kit is something I wish I bought a long time ago. Now this tool right here, over my many years of diagnostics, I have had to go up under the dash on a DLC and test for power. And so maybe you don't have communication with your scan tool, so you're over here checking pin 16 for power. Well, it's a pain in the butt to get to some DLCs. They're way up under the dash. They're backwards. If you're ever doing your test in the CAN system and you're having to scope pin 6 and 14, then it's a real pain in the butt. And so I recently got this tool right here. I hooked it up in my car yesterday, and it's actually really nice because it lit up everything that had power. So it showed ground on the ground pins 4 and 5, and then it showed power on all the pins I was supposed to have. Well, it shows a voltage reading right here where it says volts, and the pin, you push this button, and this button will cycle through all the pins that have some sort of reading on them. And so on my car, I hooked it up, and pin 6 was 2.2 volts, pin 14 was 2.1 to 2.2. So I know my CAN system is good, and it also has a little hole right here where you can actually put your multimeter lead in there if you wanted to look at your voltage with your multimeter. And the best part about this of all is most of the time when you're doing a diagnostic and you're doing a troubleshooting, you have to have a scan tool hooked up. Well, to test the DLC, you have to disconnect the scan tool. Well, what I like about this is not only does it have a light on it, so you push this down, there's a light inside here. You plug this into your DLC, you plug your scanner in to this end right here. So not only do you have your scanner hooked up, you also have the OBD2 all broke out and easy to test. Now, the one thing about DLCs is that a lot of times most guys don't have the proper pin to test. And so they're shoving leads inside of a DLC and you end up with problems. So that's why this is a benefit right here, because you could just set your lead right inside that hole. You don't have to worry about messing up the pins. Now, the next tool that I wish I had bought a long time ago is a split beam torque wrench. So a long time ago, I have a torque wrench in my box that I haven't used for a lot of years. It was my first torque wrench. I think it went from 50 to, 250 or 300 pounds, something like that. It was a Matco. Well, every time you go to torque a lug nut, and it went down to, I think it was either started at 25 or 50. I think it started at 25. So you're all the way at 25. Well, a traditional torque wrench, a click style torque wrench, you have to zero it every time. So let's say the lowest setting is 25. So you're going to torque a car that's 140 foot-pounds. You got to turn the knob all the way up to 140, torque the wheels, then you got to drop it all the way back down to 25 to store it. Well, a split beam torque wrench, you do not have to do that. Whatever you put it at, that's where it stays. Now, this is Capri Tools' brand new split beam torque wrench, and I just got this, and this is a really nice torque wrench. I really like it, so we could actually look at this one in person. So here's what it looks like right here. You've got Capri, a really nice soft grip Capri Tools handle. The finish is awesome. It's got a really nice spring-loaded clip here that holds the wheel. So you turn this wheel and it moves the dial, and you just set it to whatever you want. So let's say you work on Hondas. Set this thing to 80 foot-pounds and you don't ever have to touch it. You leave it at 80, torque every car that comes in. So split beam torque wrench, wish I bought that a long time ago. Now the next tool is a luxury tool. So I bought Snap-on cordless tools years ago, and that's all I bought was all Snap-on. And I had them for years. I had this guy. I had the original version of this one, just a little quarter drive, little hex drive 14.4. And then I bought this because it was nice. It would take off lug nuts. Worked in the beginning. It would take off 80-pound lug nuts, no problem. Well, then over time it wore out. I got frustrated. I wasn't spending that much money to buy a new one, and all my coworkers had this gun right here. This is the Stubby 3/8 M12 Milwaukee cordless impact. This thing has so much power. It is just amazing. It has 250 foot-pounds of breakaway torque. Now, this is the tool only, so this is like $200 from Home Depot. Now, what I strongly recommend is that you get a 5.0 battery. So this was a kit I found at Home Depot for $130, and it came with a charger and a 2.5 high output battery and a 5.0 high output battery. So this is what I have right here. I use this all the time, and this is my backup. So that's what I recommend. Unless you can find a kit with the Stubby Impact that comes with everything, that's what I recommend. But this 5.0 battery on this gun is just so powerful. You wouldn't even believe how powerful it was. So all my coworkers recommended it. I finally bought it, and then I kicked myself in the butt for not buying it a long time ago. Now the next tool I bought, so I'm going to show you the tool first. So I used to do a lot of diagnostics back in the day. We had a lot of failed smogs. Sometimes I did diagnostics all day long. I had a cart and it had all my diagnostic stuff on there. All my test leads, my fuel pressure gauge, my timing light, all my electrical stuff, my power probe, I had everything. And so back in the day, I was taught to get these kind of testers. So you would open them up. So it's like this. You push this down and this part opens up and there's a needle there. And you put it on the wire. Well, the problem with that is, for one, it leaves a big fat hole in the wire. And I mean, look at the size of the needle. It's huge. So if you're testing a small wire and you put that on there, it makes a big gouge in the wire. Well, the other problem with that is, let's say you're testing something and you're like, okay, that's good. Or for whatever reason, you have to take your equipment off. Then you go and you have to put it back on. And then you start having problems where it's not reading the voltage because maybe the wire was too small and it was pushing beside the wire. It wasn't getting the correct reading. So I chased my tail for many years using this, not knowing that there were other things out there. So this is what I personally use. I use a bed of nails. Looks like this. You put your wire in between here. It's got this strong, flat surface, and it's got this whole bunch of little tiny nails. You lay your wire across there, and this will pierce the wire. And it just little tiny holes. Doesn't hurt the wire. Now, if you live somewhere in the east, somewhere in the Rust Belt, you want to seal up your wires when you're done. But this is an easy way. And so let's say you put your wire in here and it doesn't make a connection. All you do is you grab from here and you squeeze it together. Let's say you have some real brittle wires. I've had some where I had to get some pliers and give it a little bit of a and then I got connection. And then they also clamp down. You don't have to take them off. Leave them on while you're testing. Now, another option is this. Now, these are much more expensive. I think these bed of nails are $17. I think I'm on my second or third pair. I think my second pair. So they last really good. So this is called a Phil's probe. Now, a Phil's probe is a long... I was trying to get this to zoom in. It's not going to zoom. Anyways, so this is the same principle as this one, except for it has 4 little tiny needles that pierce it. So now the Phil's probe, I believe there's an 11-inch, a 5-inch, an 11-inch, and a 15-inch. So this is the 11-inch. It's $64. So it's a little pricey. And I think the 15 was 80 something. So a little more expensive. So just your choice. This is what I personally use. This is what I know a lot of the real heavy diag guys, this is what they use. So, and don't use this. So the next tool is called an articulating camera, an articulating endoscope, articulating boroscope, whatever you want to call it. I just found out the difference today. So the difference is an endoscope is technically used to test inside of people and things like that. A boroscope is technically used to test inside of mechanical things, inside of an engine, HVAC, things like that. Well, this camera right here is designed for engines, HVAC, sewage. It's waterproof up to 65.5 feet. So it's really cool. So what this does is this thing, well, let's not look at that video. So basically what this does is the end here, actually, I have this camera right here. Let's just take a look at it. So what this does is you can put this down inside of a cylinder and you can turn the camera upside down. You can look at the spark plug hole. You can look at the valves. So here, I'm not going to put the screen on, but this is what it looks like. So you got this knob here and it turns 180 one way, 180 the other way. So here's what your camera looks like. Okay. So you're going to turn this and it's going to turn. It can turn all the way like that. Or you can put it back the other way and it turns all the way the other way. Now, if you wanted to look at something that's in my direction or in your direction, basically you would just turn it. So you can go from here to there or here to there. So you can get up. I did it in my car. I put it in the hole, in the spark plug hole, and looked up at the valves. I looked at the cylinder walls, looked at the pistons. So these things are awesome, and I wish I bought one of these a long time ago. Now, what I like about this is this specific brand has 8 LEDs. It's adjustable up to 3 different light levels. It can zoom, I think, 4 times. The opening, the size of this is just slightly smaller than 7 millimeters. So this actually should work in a glow plug hole. Not 100% certain. I haven't tried it on a glow plug hole, but I'm pretty sure it does. But anyways, it's slightly smaller than 7 millimeters. So it's great. It's 65.5 feet waterproof, and it's got a 6.4 millimeter camera. I'm not here to sell you this boroscope. I'm only telling you because it's awesome. Now this is $104. Comes with its own screen. Now I've used this and I like it. I like the picture quality. Now the next one I'm going to show you. Now the reason I wish I had had this sooner is back in the day when we first started getting the Dodges that would drop valve seats and things like that. Well, if you didn't have a camera that could go down and look back up at the valve seat, then the only true way to tell was to pull the head off. And so I had many engines where the shop wanted me to pull the head off to be sure, pulled the head off, and sure enough, it needs an engine. And so now we just disassembled the engine when we didn't really have to. We could have used an articulating boroscope, turned it around, looked at the valve seat, looked at the valves, and got a really good view of the piston. Now, this was my first articulating boroscope. Now, the only thing now this has one benefit compared to the other one. What this one does, the articulation works the exact same. So the cord is longer on this one. Now this one's $400. Now what I don't like about this one is that you have to hook up your phone to it. So you charge the device because the articulation and the camera and everything, it goes through the device. So the device has to be charged. Well, then your phone has to be charged. So you have to put your phone on the device, plug the 2 in, connect it with an app, and then use the boroscope. Now, the one difference between this one and the Vivor one is that you can see this joystick. This joystick can go in all directions. So instead of having to put this one in, and let's say it's here, and you have to rotate the actual end around, this one, you can actually rotate it all the way around 360 with the joystick. Now, one thing that I want to mention about this specific one is this. Every single camera that I've ever used, it comes wound up, including this one. When you use them, they are wound up. And so they're naturally like this. Well, when you unwind them and you put them straight, they're still trying to wind back up. So you're fighting that curve. This one here, I can put this one straight and it will stay straight. So I actually could drop this down in a cylinder, turn the camera, set it down, go grab something, come back, and it's still in its same position. That's why I prefer this one. And it comes with a screen. This one has a screen that clicks on it with a great picture quality. I'll attach a little video of what that looks like right here. Those are the valves and the spark plug hole from inside of a cylinder with the cylinder head bolted on. So the articulating camera is something I wish I had bought a long time ago. Now, this is something that I fought for so long ever buying. The shop always had jump boxes, and we always used them, battery chargers, jump boxes, things like that. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse than lugging a battery box all the way out to a dead car just to get out there to find out that maybe the battery box, even though it says it has 12 volts, doesn't really. And you go out there, you try to start it, it doesn't start. And you end up walking back and forth 3 or 4 times. And it's always the car that's the farthest from the shop that you end up walking back and forth 3 or 4 times. So I have both of these jump packs. So this is a JNC 325. I even have the JNC 345, which jumps even bigger diesels. This is their brand new 325. It's got a nice battery indicator on here. It's got a boost button. I like that a lot. I use this one at work. It works great. I recently got this one. Now, Top Don is really, they are on top of their game, and they are coming out with some really good equipment. This is their JS3000. Let's take a look at what it looks like. It's right here. Now, this is really sleek. I like it. It's got a nice, comes in a carrying case. So does the JNC. I don't leave it in a carrying case. It actually sits on the back wall of my hutch, plugged in, because there's nothing worse than to go out to use a jumper box and it's not charged enough to start the car. So this is what the JS3000 looks like. So here we are. We have your battery. It's going to show you where it's at: 25, 50, 75, 100. Well, most jump packs, when you hook them up to a car, if there's no battery voltage, most jump packs won't start the car because it doesn't know to turn on. Well, this one has a boost button. So if that's the case, you hold down this boost button right here. It'll light up here, and it will give it 3,000 cranking amps. This one's got a light on it. Pretty sure the JNC has a light too. It's got a light. It's got a strobe light. It's got an SOS. Got a bunch of stuff. So either one is really good. I'll link all that down below. The next tool is something that I didn't even know about for a very long time. Now, I know you guys can all relate. You go out and you put your socket on an exhaust bolt, and let's say you try to be gentle with it. And I'm not going to run it out with an impact. I'm going to go slow. Or I'm going to use an impact. Either way. And you get done, and either the nut seizes or it just destroys the threads on the stud, or it breaks. Okay? Bad scenario. A lot of times you're not getting time for that. You're screwed. You broke it. You have to fix it. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll link a little clip of video of this right here.
Got the Venom HP mini ductor. These bolts were completely frozen. Just got that one off right there. Turn that nut completely red in 38 seconds. Starting to glow. There it is. Look at that glow. All right. Look at that. Boom.
You put this on there. This thing heats up in, I think it was 45 seconds. This is the originator of the inductive heaters. So basically what you do is you're going to put your coil in the tool and you're going to put your coil around the bolt. Now it's best to have a coil that is the closest to the bolt. So if you've got a bolt that's this big and you've got a coil that's this big, it's got to take up all that space to heat up that nut or bolt. If you have one that's really close, then it's going to heat it up very fast. So about 45 seconds, it'll heat this bolt up red hot. You take your cordless impact over there and zap it right out, and the threads look brand new. I'm telling you, you cannot go wrong with that, and it will save you so much time and so much money. And what you're going to want to get with that is you're going to want to get a coil pack. So this is an essential coil kit. They have many different kits. This one here, it has a bunch of the different coils. It has longer ones, it has bigger ones, shorter ones. So it works great. This is the kit that I have. And then they have one that has long, really long ones. And then they have one called a bearing buddy, where essentially it's just a long cable and you drape it around whatever it is that you're trying to drape it around, a bearing, anything. And you use that and it'll heat it up. It's not in a traditional coil shape like this. So I recommend that. This is $107 for the kit. You won't be disappointed with that, let me tell you. Now this is going to come with a story. So a thread restore kit. So I've been doing this for 20 years and probably maybe 5 years ago, I learned about a thread restore kit. I did not know that there was something different than a tap set. So for many years, I would have a bolt, whether it be a stud, an exhaust bolt, whatever, and it would come out and the threads would be jacked up. And I would use my tap. I would try to fix the threads with a tap, right? Well, the threads are messed up, so all a tap does is cut threads through the messed up threads. And then you end up with a big fat hole. Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing a turbo on a 6.4, and one of the bolts came out really, really hard, and I wanted to fix the threads. So I thought, I know, I'll get my tap. Grab my tap, try to clean up the threads, and guess what happened? The tap broke off in the hole. Well, I was not replacing the turbo. I was removing the turbo to replace the high pressure fuel pump that's under the turbo in a big 550 boom truck. And it was a fleet. So I had to buy a new tool. So I go onto the Snap-on truck and I was like, hey, I broke a tap off in a hole. Do you have something that gets that out? Oh yeah, I do right here. This Walton 4-piece flute set. Well, what this does is it looks like this, and it has these flutes on there. And the flutes slide down beside the tap, and then you slide this down over them to hold them in place, and then you turn this to turn the tap. Now, I used it one time, and then my coworker used it once at home. He broke off a tap in an exhaust manifold on a Chevy. So he used it once, I used it once. 150, actually I bought it on the Snap-on truck, so it was probably a lot more than $155. But I own it, I never use it. So this is what I used to have, was just a tap and die set. Don't clean up threads with these. You want to clean up threads with one of these. So all this does is it reforms the threads back to how they're supposed to be. And it doesn't cut the threads. And then this kit actually comes with these two rods here that have 4 different thread pitches on each end. So if you've ever done a power steering line and you try to put it in and you're putting it in crooked and it gets stuck and you damage the threads, you have to fix them. You're not going to replace the line. So you find one of these that works and you fix the threads. I had to use that on an NPR one time. I damaged the threads on a gearbox taken off a pitman arm. And the tap for that, or the die for that, was so expensive because it was huge, because it was NPR. So anyways, so use a thread restore kit. Do not use a tap and die set to fix threads. That's my warning to you. I wish I knew this 20 years ago, because I can't tell you how many times I fought myself, or actually I created problems for myself where I didn't even know that I was making a problem until years later. Now the next tool, this goes along with testing a DLC. Now this is a forward probe kit. I'm showing this Devo kit because I have this. I bought the Devo Master Set and it came with this forward probe kit. So this has 2 of each color and it has 3 different spade or pin type connectors and 3 spades where it tests male and female connectors. So you have 3 different sizes. The only downfall is you only have 3 sizes. Now what you can do, I did some research on this. Now the reason that you want to use a forward probe kit is a long time ago, I had a van, a Ford van, had a wheel speed sensor problem. Put a wheel speed sensor in it, didn't fix it. Same problem. Well, in my testing of resistance of the wires, I disconnected the ABS connector and I put my test lead in there and I put it in the wheel speed sensor connector and I checked the resistance. And when I got done, I still had the same problem. So I'm pretty sure that I induced the problem because when I got done, I still had the same problem. I put an ABS module in there, or I think it was a BCM. Anyways, I put that in there. Guess what? Same problem. And then I had to go and fix the pins on the big fat connector and it was fixed. So the reason that you want a forward probe kit is because every single type of electrical connector is going to have a different size pin. So some pins are real small, some pins are thicker. If you use the wrong size pin or spade, then you open up that connector and then it doesn't have enough clamping force to clamp down on the true size of the wire or connector. Now I found this kit here. This was like $117 and this came with a lot of stuff. This came with all these different forward probes. It came with these type of probes. It came with back probe pins on alligator clips. It came with those, throw those in the garbage. So it came with a whole bunch of different stuff. So this was $117. I found a better quality one, but it's more expensive, $217. And this is 54 pieces. So this has a lot more different styles and sizes of forward probes that you need. So that is my recommendation. But you definitely want to have some sort of forward probe kit to make sure that you're testing correctly. You do not want to have to go and chase your tail because you pierced the wire too thick or you opened up a connector. If you've been doing this for a long time, then you know the heartache of opening up a connector and having a big problem when you're done. So that is my list of 10 tools I wish I bought a long time ago. And they would have saved me so much heartache had I had those tools a long time ago.
Now that you've seen this video, I'm sure you can relate to maybe some tools that you have that you wish you got sooner, and maybe some horror stories like I had along the way. Hey, drop a comment down below and let me know one tool that you wish you bought sooner. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell so you get notified of all my future content, which you definitely do not want to miss. So click the link right there for a video of my favorite tools of 2023. See you guys next time.